Trainers, we are here for the Utrecht Special Event 2023. As you can see, the hall is packed. Our players are streaming in. We have hundreds of competitors in 3 different tournaments going on today. We have the trading card game, of course. We have the video game, and we also have Pokemon Go. This is expected to be one of the largest special events of all time here in Europe. So I'm really excited to get this underway. We literally have hundreds of players, as you can see. The hall is filling up right now, and there's that crackle of anticipation. There's a lot of points on the line that can be earned for the World Championships this year. So there's going to be really high stakes action. Many players from across Europe are really banking on this tournament to get their invite. So there's all sorts that really they have to go through, a lot of struggle, a lot of anticipation. It's at this point in the tournament where you have those butterflies in the stomach. Is my deck going to work out? How are my choices going to be? How's my gameplay going to be? And yeah, it's just going to be a fantastic occasion. We have the streaming area over here. We're getting ready to set up. It's going to be a fantastic occasion. We're going to be showing you all the action. Don't get it twisted. We're going to have all the best players from around the countries of Europe here. It's going to be a fantastic occasion. I really can't say more about that. It's going to be just a fantastic showing. Our players have already got their pairings for the first round, so I'm not going to waste any more time. We're getting straight into it. Over to you, casters.
Thank you very much, Joe, and welcome to the Pokemon TCG special event in Utrecht. My name is Ross Gilbert, and I'm delighted to be joined for the first time on stream so far by the lovely Alex Dow. How's it going, Alex?
Yeah, fantastic. It's amazing to be here alongside you, alongside Ross, alongside Shay as well. And we're really looking forward to bringing you all the action from this special event in Utrecht. We've got an amazing amount of players in all 3 divisions. We're going to have all 9 rounds for you guys, featured with top players really bringing their best to perform and try and take home the crown as a special event champion in the Netherlands.
I mean, things have changed in the last few years, Alex. Last time I casted a special event, a few years ago in Bilbao, I think we had sub 200 players, in Masters at least. This weekend, we got 853 Masters. I think I just looked up and saw the final count. 853 Masters for a special event. That is unheard of a few years ago. The attendance at these tournaments is growing, pretty much every day, it seems like. And then everybody's good nowadays. Everyone's got a good list nowadays. These tournaments have become, a few years ago, we were looking at American tournaments of nearly 1,000 players going, oh, man, I really wish I could compete in that kind of tournament. And now, well, everyone in Europe can.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, considering we've also seen the growth from the tournaments in the Netherlands from when we were playing many moons ago up into this stage now where, we're hitting record numbers at every tournament, and we just keep breaking them. We're going into more tournaments very soon. We've obviously got a massive tournament coming up very soon as well. But as of right now, this is again probably the biggest special event we've ever had, particularly with Worlds starting to creep round the corner now.
Yeah, you see more and more people. Most of my Twitter is just Pokemon TCG, and I see every time there's an event, more and more people saying, I've got my invite, I've got myself up into that top 22, or I'm right on the verge. I think I've secured my travel stipend for the next, international championships. I'm seeing these people kind of hitting their milestones, really every event, and it's absolutely fantastic seeing it. And obviously, we know Worlds in Yokohama this year, so Worlds is kind of a big deal this year. Everybody wants it.
Yeah, exactly that. And as we can see from the players, starting to really come to the fore at different tournaments. It's not just, the typical names that we do see performing really well. We're seeing some really fantastic players really come to the light now and really sort of start, dominating fields. We saw 2 Polish regional champions now for this season, which is amazing, particularly coming off the back of Bochum, which we had Miłosz just really sort of take it down with that Lugia Vikavolt list.
Yeah.
So it's really this kind of innovation, which is fantastic to see. Loads of different players really going. It's in Japan for the first time ever. This is where we're really going to try for it. And then, of course, with the CP also lowering as well, gives a lot more people opportunity to make it all the way to Japan. And it's a fantastic feeling to have really a chance to really go.
Yeah, I mean, for those people that are unaware, we had the announcement a few weeks back that the championship point bar is actually being lowered for a lot of places, a lot of regions, a lot of age divisions, just to make it a little bit easier to get that qualification to get over to Yokohama and to play. Because, of course, that is what everybody's really kind of aiming for here. And I loved your point about newer players. Like, the last time I was at one of these streams, on one of the Limitless streams, I was at Lille, and we had Jamie Franklin, a UK player who really hadn't made a name for himself yet, got second with that Blissey list. And then then I'm in Oceania International Championships 3 weeks ago, and Jamie's just kind of wandering around the venue. It turns out Jamie makes day 2, has a couple of wins at the start of day 2, and I'm like, well, hang on a second. A few months ago, nobody knew who Jamie was. Now, you know, day 2 at an international championship after a 2nd place at a regional, and we got so many more of these players kind of coming up, and it's difficult, these events. They're big, they're difficult, but we are now ready. And we do have a very good matchup. On the left there, we've got Stefan Ivanov, and on the right, I believe it's Alex Alvarez.
Yeah, both players here for our first feature match of this Utrecht special event. We will be seeing 2 sort of the same engine decks right now. We're going to have Stefan Ivanov playing his Lost Zone Gudra list up against Alex playing a bit more of a conventional Lost Box list, I think we're going to see here.
Yeah, you've absolutely nailed it there. We've got Hisuian Gudra against Lost Box. I mean, we see, you know, with Alex here, it's a lot of what we've come to expect. There's a Dragonite, there's a Snorlax, there's a Zera Aura. We've got those different attackers that can go into those different matchups. Zera Aura to hit for weakness, Snorlax to take out those pesky single prizes with a bit of bulk, Dragonite that can really reach and KO those bigger HP Pokemon. Obviously, Drapion is a bit of a Mew counter, very much a Lost Box kind of thing. It's all those different kind of attackers. Gudra, however, a little bit more straightforward at times.
Yeah, you know, both players are going to be wanting to put all or as many cards into those Lost Zone as soon as possible, get the engine really going with sort of the Comfey, Flower Selectings, and the Chorus's Experiment. But of course, with Gudra, once you're set up, you're able to sort of power it up with Mirage Gate, use its fantastic V-Star power ability, just as we sort of see the prizes here for both players, and nothing too out of the ordinary, nothing too crazy to really impact their game plans. Just a few energies on Alex's side, of course, so both players will have to kind of manage their resources quite well. Just a 1 Gudra V-Star in there as well, but I think both players will be quite happy with this.
Yeah, Stefan's playing a free list of that Hisuian Gudra. It's quite a thick list. It's, you know, we see some people trying to go 3-2 with some of their V-Stars. I've seen some 2-2 Lugias floating around that always make me nervous. But, you know, a lot of people play 2 of the V-Stars sometimes, or, you know, 2 Mew V Max I've seen more than a couple of times. Yeah. And that's always like, you see 1 in the prizes at that situation and you're like, hang on a second. But having the free Gudra means even if 1's in the prizes, you shouldn't be too upset. But we are off now, and it looks like Stefan is taking the first turn here. Well, that Comfey in the active.
Yeah, and just he's going to be really sort of in a driving spot here, because he's going to start getting those Lost Zone cards as soon as possible. Plays down that Poker Gear, which is an interesting aspect to kind of get to those Chorus Experiment, which he very quickly pulls out of his deck there as well. As mentioned, you know, Alex won't be minding this situation too much. Has started the Cramorant in the active spot, which isn't ideal. Would want his own Comfeys there as well to kind of maybe start using Cramorant to apply some pressure. But Stefan here will be thinking, well, I'm going first. We've got to try and get a Gudra down, try and get it evolved up, and let's try and get to that 7 in the Lost Zone so we can start to Mirage Gate and power it up very quickly.
Absolutely. We do see the first flower selecting here from Comfey, and it's interesting, of course, Stefan going to get that supporter turn 1. There are some formats where you don't play a card like Poker Gear for fear of hand disruption. Alex is playing Lost Box. It's not a deck that really plays any hand disruption, so there's no Marnie, there's no Judge, so you know you can go and search that supporter, and you're not even really giving the game away, because Alex knows you're going to be trying to Chorus's Experiment. You're not giving anything away here.
Oh, and there's a retreat and then still into a switch with a Drapion down onto the bench. I don't think that's ideal from Stefan to have that. And he's had to just Lost Zone a Gudra V-Star there. And now kind of now he's going through to different Comfeys. He's really just kind of turboing through right now on his first turn.
This is where it gets awkward then. Now here is Stefan's first deck search. And he doesn't know there's a Gudra prize. Now that there's 1 prize and 1 in the Lost Zone, this is where it gets a little bit awkward. Stefan is about to realise that. And I think you made a good point with the Drapion there. You don't really want to bench it here, but you had to do kind of your switching and your scoop up net to bounce that Comfey in and out of the active. So you had to have a bench Pokemon with which to do it. Only option was Drapion.
Yeah, and it's just maybe that was the concern. If Stefan was able to get another Battle VIP pass or another Comfey down, leaving just 1 Comfey there when you're playing up against Lost Box, which very easily hits the floor with a Cramorant and Spit innocently, is not ideal. So Stefan just had to make that decision. It's one of those tough decisions. Sometimes you just unfortunately have to make. But here we are. He does find the Battle VIP pass, does grab his Gudra V, ready to bench as well, alongside his own Cramorant, ready to start maybe applying pressure of his own with his single prize attacker.
And that was a decent turn. You don't like seeing the Gudra V-Star in the lost zone, and you don't like seeing the Drapion down, but Stefan got mostly what he wanted there. Save maybe an energy attachment. That was a pretty decent turn. Alex, however, he's picking up those prizes, but don't be worried. It's a Hisuian Heavy Ball. We're getting a basic Pokemon out of there.
Yeah, there was the Oranguru just sitting there nicely for him to take out of those prizes, and that Hisuian Heavy Ball goes straight in, gets shuffled back up. Opportunity to just cut there from Stefan's side, but does give Alex that opportunity to now utilize that Oranguru in a really cool place, because it's such a unique card. Again, when you're trying to protect yourself from those Marnies or different kind of disruption cards, there's an additional draw. But, you know, he will be looking for those comfies, and the quick balls here, I can only imagine he's going for one of his special flower selecting cards.
Yeah, you got plenty of attackers, you got your Cramorant, your Sableye, but I think you were saying a second ago, really with this deck, the first couple of turns, it is getting cards into the lost zone. You've got those key numbers. 4 cards in the lost zone means attacking for free with Cramorant. 7 in the lost zone means that you can get your Mirage Gate item card to accelerate energy. 10 in the lost zone means you can drop those damage counters with Sableye. So in the first couple of turns, the only real concern here is how many cards can I get into the lost zone, and the ideal here is a minimum double flower selecting, play Chorus's Experiment, and then KO Comfy with your Cramorant. That's the ideal turn 1 for Alex here.
Yeah, and I think there's a really unique card that we've just seen at the front of Alex's deck, where he had the Sky Seal Stone, just also kind of eyeing up those additional prizes to try and find ways to go beyond go beyond the sort of prize race itself, especially with that Drapion on the bench now, with that opportunity to really kind of navigate beyond what Stefan's game plan will be, is really kind of reducing that damage with that Hisuian Gudra V-Star attack. But we do see Alex bench his Comfey down now. It's just trying to get it into the active spot, start pivoting around, use those flower selectings. There's the escape.
Oh, there's a nice pivot.
We're kind of expecting an easy choice, which is to go into a Comfey himself there. Yeah, there you go. Both players promoting their Comfeys, and Alex will be again, I would believe, his first flower selecting of the game.
Yeah, it had to be done. You can't put the Gudra up because that's too important. You don't want to give up 2 prizes on the Drapion, and the Cramorant's probably going to be your attacker next turn, so it did have to be the Comfey. I like your point about Sky Seal Stone. For those that have forgotten, it lets you basically take an extra prize off a V-Star or V-Max Pokemon if you KO it with a basic Pokemon V. And obviously we have the Dragonite in Alex's list, and Stefan is playing a V-Star deck, so that's something Alex is going to be trying to work towards as we go through this game. Can I use my Dragonite to get a KO on Hisuian Gudra V-Star? If I can, that's the turn I want to use Sky Seal Stone, activate that V-Star power, and then, you know, really swing the prize race in my favor. With the reduction in damage, it's not an easy thing to do. It can be really awkward, but if you can do it, it can be one of those things that really swings the game back towards you, and it's not going to be something Alex is going to be able to do super easily, but it's definitely something he's going to try and work towards at some point.
Yeah, this is where we're going to see those unique kind of interactions because of that Drapion on the field as well. It's another potential easy target. We do see Alex go for the Oranguru ability there, his Battle VIP pass, pulling out another Comfey and the Radiant Greninja, but just has to pass over the turn, which is not ideal. No other way to get that Comfey out of the active and continue maybe applying pressure from his own side of the board. Didn't have the energy in hand for concealed cards either, it looked like. So Stefan, you know, advantage Stefan at this current situation.
Yeah, because he's already got the Comfey in the active. He knows he can flower select. He knows he's getting 4 cards in the lost zone. So all he needs is any pivot, and he's got the Cramorant ready to take a KO on the active Comfey. So Stefan's attack at the end of this turn, Stefan's prize is there. That's kind of really hard to take away at this stage. So for Stefan, it's really just a question of how well can he establish his board before he KOs the Comfey with the Cramorant here. And if you're Stefan, that is exactly what you're looking for. We see Chorus's Experiment putting 2 cards in the lost zone, and that's already 5. We're only 2 away from using Mirage Gate. Now one with the cover. I am liking this, Alex. I'm liking it.
Yeah, here comes number 6 into that lost zone. I think it's another kind of awkward decision. Yeah, we do see a Gudra unfortunately hit the lost zone there as well. Stefan does have a pretty good hand. We caught a glimpse there just a moment ago. There's a scoop up net to bring up the other config. This will mean he hits his 7, activates. I believe there was 2 Mirage Gates in his hands. He's got another pivot in hand already, which is why he was happy to lost zone that escape rope. And it looks like, you know, even if he doesn't necessarily get the Hisuian Gudra V-Star out this turn, that Cramorant will be ready to start taking the first prize and push him ahead in this sort of prize race that you often see with this Lost Box. And then it's just trying to navigate your prize mapping between this matchup on both sides, really. But Stefan here continuing to draw cards. You know, drawing cards is the best thing you could do in this game, being able to get more knowledge and just know you're not going to be disrupted. And it's just down to Stefan how now he navigates this attack.
He wants the V-Star. I'm pretty sure at this stage he's digging for the V-Star, but we know 1 in the prizes, 1 in the lost zone. It's kind of awkward. It's actually high in the prizes. Most players take bottom to top. It's not a rule or anything, but that's the way most people do it.
Yeah.
So that means that Stefan is unlikely to actually get it up the prizes anytime soon. So, again, armed with the knowledge that one's prized, you never know when it's coming out. I think for Stefan here it is, you know, you want to try and take a few prizes with that Cramorant. Give yourself time to really establish that Gudra. And you see choosing not to play the Mirage Gate yet, because you don't really want a Mirage Gate onto the Gudra V, because that's got lower HP and it's more easy to KO.
Yeah, and we do see the second Gudra come down from Stefan as well, sort of noticing that if one Gudra does go down and he just leaves 1 in play, it's really awkward then for Stefan to kind of move into that Gudra V-Star Pokemon. So he's just taken the early, easy knockout here with the Cramorant, as kind of expected, applying just enough pressure with just a single prize attacker, putting Alex in a bit of an awkward spot. Alex is already immediately straight into a flower selecting himself, going up to 2 in the lost zone now. Does need a couple more, does find an energy for concealed cards as well, so it's more draw cards. It's just whether Alex can hit maybe a Chorus's Experiment to put those final 2 in and maybe retaliate with his own Spit Innocently from that Cramorant on his board there. Doesn't kind of giving away a little bit of a, is it good enough right now? It doesn't look so. Draws another card with Primate Wisdom from Oranguru. Is it enough? Is there anything there for Alex right now? It doesn't look like it. It's a bit of a tell, unfortunately.
I don't think it is. I mean, you can see Alex's face there. He does not look like he's having a good time here. And look, we're best of 50 minutes. So there does come a point in game 1 where you are so far behind. What you really need to do is just scoop up your cards and go to game 2. Try and give yourself enough time. With 9 rounds, 583 players, ties, especially early ties, are not good for you. You want to get those wins nice and early. And look, we might only be, both players have had 2 turns here, but we're back to Stefan. Alex has 1 card in the lost zone, is down by a prize, has very little in terms of a decent board established. If I'm Alex, I'm thinking maybe 1 or 2 more turns. If I'm Stefan, I'm thinking, hey, let's win a long game 1. Let's see if I can kind of keep this going. But I think Stefan here is in such a big, and here's a problem. When the Gudra V-Star comes out, that's when Stefan actually really gets going.
And we're seeing like the consistency of Stefan's list right now, because he's playing those poker gears to really drive into those Chorus's Experiment. And he's played 2 back-to-back now.
Yeah.
You know, that's instantly the 4 into the lost zone already. He's kind of increasing his percentages of just going into those Mirage Gate and different plays that are available to him. Easy choice of double VIP pass there from the Chorus Experiment being lost zoned. There's the Hisuian Gudra V-Star, pretty much getting primed and prepped and ready right now. But he does still just have a single prize attacker, so there's no reason to not utilize it as much as he can. Alex has to be sort of beginning to think about, as you mentioned, Ross, whether this is still, let's say, worth it or good value for him to continue with this game. The only thing I do see, because there's currently 3 Vs on Stefan's board, that's potentially a way, again, to think about how could I jump over that prize race.
Yeah, if there's a couple of turns where you stream this Chorus's Experiment, get a few sour selecting, if you can get kind of like a big Dragonite taking a couple of KOs in a row, that's the kind of thing that can get you back into this game. The problem is that Hisuian Gudra V-Star, like, here we go, here's the concession. So Alex concedes game 1, Stefan wins game 1, and we're going to be heading off to game 2. And I like this. Save yourself some time. Because the thing about Hisuian Gudra V-Star is when you get to the late game, That's when you start slowing it down and frustrating your opponent. One of the things you most want to do against a Sui and Gudra V-Star is you want a couple of early prizes. That's the ideal. Take a couple of cheeky early prizes off a Comfy or something like that, and then you can really fight for those last couple prizes, or maybe gust around the V-Star. If you're at least 2 or 3 prizes down and then it comes active, that's not a fun place to be.
No, definitely not. And I think we've seen already, just from only having 3 turns each, really, and it's already taken quite a bit of time. We know these decks do take some time to actually get to the stage of a position of actually winning a game. So trying to scoop early is what they've done.
Yeah.
Really puts himself in a better position to try and at least tie up the series. You know, we know Stefan makes as minimal mistakes as he does as one of the top players in Europe. So Alex is really going to have to try and find a way to navigate around those scenarios with the Hisuian Gudra V-Star's attack, the rolling iron, reducing that damage, of course. It kind of limits what Alex could do, but if he can start applying pressure early, you know, Stefan didn't necessarily get his Gudra V-Star out too quickly and had a lot of Vs on the board, so there were opportunities there. It's just, you know, consistently wins.
Yeah, and if I'm Stefan, I'm feeling pretty good about that. I just had a game where, like, I had 3 V-Stars. One was in the prizes. One I lost zoned early before I realized one was in the prizes.
Yeah.
So I had potential where I'm trying to navigate an entire game with 1 V-Star. And yet I kind of won it quite nicely. That was not, and now the start was good with the flower selecting and the choruses experiment. That was amazing. But I'll be perfectly honest with you, that could have gone awkward for Stefan in another situation. So I was kind of loving that.
Yeah, no, and he's been able to kind of take this just by being a bit more consistent with all the right cards. As we do now go into our game 2 of both players, just double checking who's going to be starting. Alex does have the initiative, of course, does actually mulligan here, so Stefan just gets a lot more information about what is in Alex's deck, which is quite nice, but Alex obviously will have the choice of going first or second. In this scenario, we've had players choose sometimes to go second because then they could take the early knockout with Cramorant, but I think most decks still want to go first because just they can get going a little bit easier, can't they?
He had the initiative. He did not have a basic Pokemon. For anyone who's newer to the game, the Mulligan rules, basically you can't start unless you have a basic Pokemon, right? So you shuffle up. If you have a basic Pokemon, you have to play a basic Pokemon. If you don't, you have to take a Mulligan. There's no optional Mulligans. And what that basically means is you shuffle up and get a new 7, but your opponent has an opportunity to take an extra card. We'll see the dice with 2 there on Stefan's deck. That means he can take up to 2 cards, but the rule's different to how it used to be. You used to be able to take them 1 at a time. Nowadays, you essentially have to wait until the mulligans are stopped and then decide how many you want to take. What you used to be able to do is take kind of 1, then another, and go, oh, you know what, I'm pretty good. I'm all right now. It's, you know, you got to kind of declare the number and take. But we are off, and it looks like Alex will be going first. I wonder if we're going to see some flower selecting here. Yeah,
it looks very likely. It looks like we've got a mirror of the actual first game as well, where Stefan started the Comfey, and this time it's Alex's turn to start the Comfey, and Stefan starts the Cramorant. But, you know, there's the quick first deck search from Alex as well. Often between players, you're given that little bit of extra time for your first search just to kind of make sure your prizes and kind of check your counts. So there's a little bit of leeway, a little bit of an unwritten player gaming rule here that we have. So Alex will just take his time, make sure he's prized nothing too crazy. We're very much in a lucky position where we got caster cam and can see the prizes alongside you viewers at home. But he does go for the other flower selecting Comfey as well. You know, it's the core part of the engine. Get those Lost Zone cards into that Lost Zone as soon as possible and then begin applying pressure with all those single prize attackers that you mentioned earlier as well. And if they can, nice and early with that Cramorant.
Absolutely, and you said about the prize cam, we can see the prize cams here. Nothing particularly terrifying from either player, lots of one-offs. They've both got a battle VIP pass, but yeah, there's nothing particularly terrifying there. I don't think either player is going to be too upset with the prizes.
I think we're shortly about to see the first flower selecting. There's the marker coming onto the screen there.
I love that marker.
2 cards is a wonderful marker. I think, again, a little bit of an awkward spot because one's the scoop up net and the Radiant Greninja, which is awkward, I believe. Does choose to Lost Zone the scoop up net there.
You have
to. We've seen how important that Greninja is, not just as a support Pokemon with its concealed cards ability, but that Moonlight Shuriken's also a fantastic attack, being able to deal 90 damage to 2 Pokemon as well. It's one of those cards which is kind of almost forced inclusion of that Manaphy in a lot of decks like these because of lower HP Pokemon.
Indeed, though Stefan is not actually playing a Manaphy. There is no Manaphy in Stefan's deck, which does make that Radiant Greninja hitting 2 bench Pokemon or 2 Pokemon for 90 damage, that does open up some double KOs. So as much as you love that scoop up net, you cannot put the Radiant Greninja in the Lost Zone. Stefan here, though, starts off with Chorus' Experiment and a Battle VIP pass. If I'm Stefan, I'm liking this.
Yeah, this is ideal. And he's also been able to Lost Zone that Drapion V, I believe, as well.
Oh, yeah, he did as well.
So
that on the right
this
hand.
time, we're not going to see it hit the bench. Stefan's not going to give Alex any opportunity to take easy prizes or additional prizes as through the card that we mentioned earlier, the Sky Sealstone. But now Stefan's pretty much in a fantastic position. Hits that Chorus Experiment turn 1, which is, again, ideal. It's what you want to see. You get 3 cards added into your hand and 2 going into the Lost Zone. And this Battle VIP pass just setting himself up ready with those double Comfeys, giving himself a chance to just double check his prizes and his counts as well. Just puts him in a really, really good spot here. And I'm really looking forward to see how Stefan's going to navigate around. He's going to have to do some more pivoting, of course, with some flower selectings ready to go. We do get a quick glance of his hand. Has extra Battle VIP passes. This is as ideal as you can get.
This is nice.
For any kind of player, and honestly. There's a Radiant Greninja we mentioned from Alex's side already going to the front of the deck alongside that Goodra as well. Really strong start from Stefan.
Yeah, this is a very, very strong start. You are loving this. We do need to confirm Sky Sealstone only takes an extra prize off a V Max or a V Star.
Oh, sorry.
So you can't take it off Drapion V. No, this is all good. I don't want to be misleading anyone. But you're absolutely right. Drapion in the Lost Zone, absolutely huge. Getting rid of it, you don't need it. And here's what I'm thinking about Stefan's start here. Last game, now Stefan had a good start with a Lost Zone, no question there. But there were bench Pokemon he didn't want. There were awkward prizes, awkward flower selecting early in the game. That kind of didn't go his way. Stefan is having an even smoother start than last time. Avoiding all of those awkward situations. And Alex is like, I've still only got 1 card in the Lost Zone. And Alex won last game when it didn't go that well for him. What's going on this game? Because Stefan's deck looks like it is running smooth. And you pointed out the Pokegear. I'm loving Pokegear in Stefan's list.
Yeah, we've seen Stefan play like certain lists before where he's included additional consistency cards. I think when he played Arceus Duraludon, he had the inclusions of the Tower of Darkness to start sending more cards to kind of keep drawing through. Those additional little things really do help. And just, as you mentioned, that Pokegear really just kind of helped Stefan drive into those Chorus Experiment as soon as possible. As we see here, Stefan now just pivoting and doing his little pivot dances between the Comfeys to really do more flower selectings, get those 4 into the Lost Zone, and does mean it activates Cramorant's ability, Lost Provisions, to be able to use Spit Innocently without any energy attached to it.
Turn 1 Cramorant going second is huge. There's a Comfey in the active. There's usually going to be a Comfey in the active because of the nature of these decks. Oh, now here's an awkward situation. It is an escape rope. Alex does just put a... Oh, now he seems to have changed his mind there. It seems like that's all right. That was in time there. So we are going to see the Cramorant here coming up. And now the question is, I'm just double checking this so I don't say anything really stupid, but I'm pretty sure Cramorant can KO Cramorant. It hits 110, exactly. It has 110. So that's an interesting choice, giving up your Cramorant. But Alex basically going, what I need more than anything here is cards in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen maybe the Radiant Greninja go to the active spot. It's not ideal, of course, because Alex would have to still find a way to pivot out of it, but it can take a hit with 130 HP, which with cards like Scoop Up Net, you don't really mind too much. Of course, sometimes you want to use it for the Comfeys and start flower selecting and pivoting around, but it sort of means Alex still potentially has that advantage to take the first prize. Now, Alex has given up the Cramorant, which means he is now a prize down up against Stefan right now, and does get to use his own Chorus Experiment. Does have another Cramorant in hand available to him, which is maybe why he chose to go down that route. But right now, here we go. We see another escape rope, and Stefan just instantly going into another Comfey. Alex is going to be moving up to the 5 in the Lost Zone now, which again will activate his own Cramorants. Let's see how this kind of plays out. But like I said, it would have been really cool to see maybe something to tank a hit like the Radiant Greninja, really just give himself a chance to maybe go ahead in the prizes first, because once Stefan goes ahead, particularly with that Goodra eventually coming down with that V-Star ability and the attack roll lines to be able to reduce damage, it just does cause it does cause a lot of not great things when you're facing up against Lost Box, when you can't really deal the damage that you need to, especially when you're two-hitting things anyway. We do see more concealed cards there as well. So Alex does look like he's getting things going now, which is a great positive for him. It's now just, can he get out of this active spot and attack with that Cramorant?
Yeah, that's the goal here. Get the Cramorant, even up those prizes there. That's always a good thing. He's got the training court in play, lets him get a basic energy back from the discard. That's always a rather large advantage. And Alex has had a much better start here than he had in the first game. This is so much better. He's actually got enough cards in the Lost Zone. Does have to manually retreat the Comfey here to get Cramorant in the active. But now we're going to see kind of a mirror image of what Stefan just did. We're going to see a KO. Okay, it's onto a Comfey, not a Cramorant, but it's still the same kind of thing. But now Stefan can just kind of respond in kind with a Cramorant. Because Stefan does not mind trading 1-for-1 and then going into his big Hisuian Gudra V-Star. So that's going to be when the game really starts kind of turning. And because Stefan got the first KO, I think for the next couple of turns, Stefan is going to be fine swapping 1-for-1 little Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. And we do see Stefan again with another...
that's beautiful.
double Temple with Sinnoh just hitting the Lost Zone there. But yeah, I don't think we've seen a turn where, well, other than his very first turn where he couldn't play a supporter, not play a Chorus Experiment on his turn, which is back to back to back to back, it seems, at this current moment, and really just pushing Stefan into an elevated position. Being able to get all those cards in there as soon as possible means it activates all of his unique cards to begin sort of applying pressure in multiple different avenues and routes compared to Alex's board. And we do see another escape rope. I think this is the third turn in a row we've seen an escape rope now. Alex having to offer up that Comfey into the active spot. Ooh, we do see Stefan go for the Radiant Greninja in the active spot. There's the Mirage Gate. This is a fantastic play and amazing. This is what we mentioned earlier.
We got the Mirage Gate coming out here. That's going to get 2 energy, and they do have to be of different types, but then you can just attach the water energy from your hand or go a second Mirage Gate if one is available. You hit 90 damage to 2 different Pokemon. And look, Alex might play a Manaphy. There's a Manaphy in the list. I believe there's a Manaphy in the list. However, it doesn't actually matter because, no, there is no Manaphy. But whether there is or isn't, it's not on the field. That's what's important right now. You're going to get a double KO on the 2 Comfey, which not only is going to take 2 prizes for Stefan, that's almost like a secondary point here. What's really important is you are shutting down Alex's engine. There'll be no Comfey on the field, and Alex is going to be in a pretty bad position going into next turn.
Yeah, really not ideal here but for Alex, but fantastic to see Stefan identifying this is the best route to kind of get in this scenario. Utilizes Alex's own training court to grab the water energy out of the discard pile as well. So does have the correct energy to sufficiently attack with Moonlight Shuriken, and will be targeting down those 2 Comfeys, the one in the active spot and the bench Comfey. Pushing himself down to just 3 prizes remaining is likely what I'm expecting to see. We can't obviously, we're having to take this position where we don't really know exactly what Stefan's thinking, but you know, we reckon we're pretty confident he's going to be knocking out 2 Comfeys here.
Oh, it's got to be the 2 Comfey. I mean, first of all, you only hit 90s. You're not KOing either the Greninja or the Cramorant. And secondly, the goal here was, I mean, prizes is good, but what was really great about Stefan's turn there wasn't the prizes, it was the disruption. It was your deck evolves around Comfey, now you've got no Comfey on the board. Now, there is a possibility here where Alex hits a Chorus's Experiment, gets a Mirage Gate, and basically just copies Stefan's homework here and does the same kind of thing, but that's not going to be possible. That wouldn't. Okay, so he has attached. This is bad because now, of course, like I've said, Mirage Gate is 2 different types of energy. You need 2 water. It's not on the cards anymore. Yeah,
and that attachment there, Alex was obviously wanting to use the capture energy to try and grab a basic Pokemon to put onto the bench, but with Temple of Sinnoh in play, not allowing that effect to happen because that's the power of the Temple of Sinnoh, and that's why Stefan's playing it. And despite already lost zoning 2 of them, did see the 3rd one hit the field as well. So just has to retreat manually with that capture energy to go into the Cramorant here and potentially just have to deal 110 damage. We do see some more concealed cards first, just to draw additional cards and get additional options that may be available to him. Only has the 5 in the Lost Zone, so that Mirage Gate not yet activated. That Snorlax would have been great as an attacker because then it would have forced the Hisuian Gudra into the active spot to try and knock it out. But Alex here, once again, just not drawing as well as Stefan and just on the back foot, particularly being 2 prizes behind in this matchup as well.
And you can see here why Stefan's last turn was so impactful. Alex here is just not, you know, we've seen this concealed cards. I don't think we've seen a supporter. There's no flower selecting on the board. And now we're going to see Alex doing what you suggested kind of earlier, hitting into a Greninja, which then doesn't get KO'd. So Stefan's not even giving up a prize this turn at this point, at which case, it is actually possible. I mean, there aren't really any great targets. Stefan could Mirage Gate and just use Greninja next turn, or it could be the time to go into Hisui and Gudra, take a KO on the Cramorant, knowing that Alex doesn't really have any good attacker, with Mirage Gate especially not even on board right now. And I think at this stage we're a couple of turns away from Stefan kind of turning this into a 2-0, because honestly, unless Alex gets a big turnaround now, which is so much more difficult without the Comfey, I'm not sure where he goes from here.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. You're going to start seeing both players thinking about those prize mapping that I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. Stefan, in effect, once he gets another energy attached to that Gudra, only needs to announce 3 more attacks to take his, to take this game. Alex here can actually technically do it with 3 more attacks, but would have to knock out not only one Hisuian Gudra V-Star, but also that Hisuian Gudra V on the bench as well, and then 1 more single prize. So because he's not taken a prize here, Stefan's likely to be able to go down to 2 remaining prizes with 1 more attack. And then it's just thinking about how does Alex really find a way to navigate himself out of this position. It'll be very difficult. Stefan will give as little away as possible as well himself, and will just be looking for his own direction of actually just taking down the last few prizes that are available. And there's the second Hisuian Gudra V-Star hit the field as well. So just prepping both of his V-Stars to be as much HP as possible and as difficult as possible.
Yeah, we do see the retreat here from the Radiant Greninja into that Hisuian Gudra V-Star, and now we are going to see it just doing its thing here. We like Hisuian Gudra V-Star, rolling iron, 200 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, it takes 80 less damage, so it's not really 270 HP, it's effectively 350 right now. And then, of course, a V-Star power, Moisture Star, which lets you heal it completely.
Yeah. And here we do see Alex do show the concession and just kind of, unfortunate for him, he hasn't been able to draw too well in this matchup. Stefan able to take the game and the series 2-0. So we do see Alex there, unfortunately. We'll start off with an 0-1 record. However, there's still a long day, a lot of rounds to go. And we do see, Stefan here starting off, kicking off with a 1 win and putting himself, again, in a great position to hopefully make it into day 2 and potentially beyond.
I mean, a player that is no stranger to day 2. We've all been in tournaments. We've played a lot of tournaments, Alex, right? And sometimes you're looking around one opponent and you're just kind of like, hang on a second. That is not fair. Having to play Stefan Ivanov round 1, that's just unfair, of course. We haven't mentioned, so let's mention it now. Stefan Ivanov, of course, won the North American International Championship by Players, the biggest tournament in the world. 2 years in a row. Was unable to attend last year to really try and make it a three-peat. But anyone who wins that tournament 2 years in a row, you are looking at one of the best players in the entire world. And we saw it there. But it's little things. How many Lost Zone players have you heard complaining, oh, I couldn't hit the Chorus's experiment often enough? And Stefan's like, well, I mean, you could just play poker gear. And you made the point, and it carried on after you said it as well. Stefan didn't miss on Chorus's experiment. Yeah,
exactly that. And then not just only not missing on such an important supporter, it's the one that he plays the 4 of in the list, of course, because it's so vital to get to those, 4 in the Lost Zone, the 7 into the Lost Zone to activate Mirage Gate. It's also those minute sort of micro decisions he has to make to have to, unfortunately, Lost Zone certain cards and scenarios. I've heard so many players, just kind of not complain too much, but just say I've had really difficult decisions in my games.
Yes.
But sometimes you just have to roll with those. Stefan had to bench that Drapion nice and early, but this time in the second game he was able to, Lost Zone that nice and early, and then it made all his decisions a lot simpler as well. And it's just those little things top players do and can do consistently well without really impacting their game to be able to take games like these, series like these, and then potentially tournaments like these. And that's how you sort of elevate yourself as a player. And we've seen Stefan, like you said, do it so often. Not just to those international competitions. He's a multi-regional winner. He's consistently top-8ing multiple events. I think he's taken maybe a little break recently just to kind of have a little respite sometimes. But here he is at another special event.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the players who matches nails to sleeves, which I think it just looks so aesthetically pleasing on stream. It makes me very, very happy, of course. One of the things is that whenever you see a good player who then ends up having a good start to the tournament because their deck's rolling, you know, everyone else in the tournament needs to be like, oh, come on. Like, you know, maybe their deck doesn't work, maybe they start having a bad day, and that gives the rest of us, you know, more of a chance. But Stefan's like, nah, mate, did you see my deck round one? That just went smooth.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, there's little things like using the Greninja, because with a deck like a Sui and Gudra V-Star, it's very easy to just be on your main goal. I'm going to get Sui and Vidra, I'm going to use Crown for as long as I can, then I'm going to keep rolling. But, you know, and I know it's a play a lot of players make, but being able to identify, hang on a second, they've got 2 Comfey out, and they've only got 5 cards in the Lost Zone, which means they don't have Mirage Gate. Now is the perfect time for me to just overextend a little bit with that Radiant Greninja to KO both those Comfey, and that was the game. Like, as soon as Stefan did that in game 2, that was a point at which Alex basically lost the game, and very little happened after that before we saw the concession.
Yeah, I think you highlighted it so importantly as well. You're not just taking 2 prizes, you're taking away your opponent's draw engine, in effect. The whole engine revolves around being able to use flower selecting and chorus experiment when you've got no flower selecting available to yourself, and you're already not drawing too well, and your opponent's just deciding, nope, you're not going to get any more of those at this current moment. You know, it puts him in a really bad position, and that's Stefan's able to identify that, utilize his variety of attackers to good effect. You know, we saw Cramorant take a couple of prizes nice and early, the Greninja come in, and then Gudra coming in to sort of sweep towards the end, essentially, which is a fantastic way of sort of demonstrating the power of this deck, and Stefan's been able to do that in round 1.
Really has. I'm always in... Oh, wait. Well, I'm interested in a lot of things, I'll be honest with you, Alex. Right now, I'm interested in hearing from Stefan Ivanov, because we've got a winner's interview ready to go.
All right then, guys. Hello. I am joined by the one and only Stefan Ivanov. Already 1-0 so far at this Utrecht special. How are you feeling today?
I mean, good. You know, you start 1-0. That's all you can hope for at this point. So yeah, hopefully I keep going.
Love that, love that. So talk to us, Stefan. Obviously, one of the premier players in Europe. I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone. When you're approaching an event such as Utrecht, what sort of things are you thinking in the weeks building up to the event?
Well, I mean, to be honest, this is a special event which has a lot of points, but no money on the line.
Yep.
You feel a bit, I think most people will feel a little bit more comfortable trying out something a bit riskier, because you feel like I didn't spend 60 euros on this event, even though, you know, we still spend money on the travel, on the hotel, so still, but yeah, I think we feel a bit more free to try out our stuff. In my case, at least, you know, it's the last event of the format. It feels like, are we really gonna invent something new? Probably not, and so on. And I feel comfortable with Gudra.
Yep.
I like the deck. I've tried other stuff, of course. I play games and so on, but I don't like playing Lugia. It's not very fun for me, and I don't like the mirror matches.
Yeah.
I feel I'm okay with Lost Box decks and Arceus Zoroidon and stuff like this, but in the end, I like Gudra's matchup spread, and I had an idea, well, it's not my own idea, but I tested a new tech for the Lugia matchup, which is Gudra's main issue, and it does help, so we hopefully the deck can be good enough this time.
Love that, love that. So like you said, you're very comfortable, you know, with Gudra. So this is, I think, your 3rd event playing it, I believe.
Yeah.
Were there any changes to the list from the first 2 events that you're now playing?
I mean, the new thing, honestly, the list has changed a little bit between Liverpool and Bochum anyway.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Went back to the VIP Pass list, even though in Liverpool I played a Quick Ball version, which I think had merits.
Yeah.
I mean, it did get 2nd place in Vancouver last weekend as well, so
it did, yeah.
Quick Ball. I was not crazy to play that. But yeah, VIP Pass is a bit more focused on the turn 1 setup, of course.
Of course.
And I feel like the new card is Articuno in the list.
Oh, yes,
which was seen briefly, like literally lost zoned it in game 1. That's obviously doesn't help against Lost Box, but it's an attack for Lugia.
Yeah,
and obviously you never always win against Lugia. It's just something that helps a little bit, so hopefully it can help me in some matches.
I have a question as well for you, Stefan, regarding Gudra. While I've got you here, let's pick Stefan's brains. I've seen recently how the Gudra V-Star lists have opted to cut Big Parasol in favour of like a choice belt. What's the reasoning behind that? Because on face value, you would imagine that Big Parasol is really good.
Yes, but okay, so the issue is, I guess, twofold.
Yep.
The first thing is that, honestly, you want to be as consistent as possible, so every card that doesn't do anything for you on turn 1 should be considered cutting. Obviously, you're not going to cut everything, you're not going to cut boss's orders, you're not going to cut Ravi Star, even though it doesn't help turn 1, but like, when you have to find cuts, that's where you start. You don't start cutting a Comfy or a Capture Energy, you start cutting these sort of cards. And the other thing is that Parasol, like, the main reason to play it would be for Yveltal, but it doesn't in the Lugia matchup, but it doesn't actually make you safe against Yveltal because they play Lost Vacuum, they play Irida for Lost Vacuum, they have ways to find it. And yes, it's true, it's harder for them, they have to find a counter to Temple and to Parasol, but it's still a card that, and it's not a bad card, really, but it's a card that you have to find at the right time, and that it's not safe for you because it can be removed by the opponent, so it's a lot to ask for. And I feel like you can accept, if things go well, if you set up and so on, you can accept that you're going to get knocked out by Yveltal and still win the matchup. So I think that's the best road to take, is accept that, okay, Yveltal is an issue, sure, but you can still win. And yeah, and the other uses of Parasol would be like for Regice in Regis, but we don't care because we already beat that matchup. And Sableye, which is really not a threat for this deck. So like, it would really be only for Lugia, and I think there are better cards to play.
Fair enough. I can confirm as a Art Giradon player myself, sometimes when you get that big Parasol on and they just go vacuum, you're like, okay, well, that was a waste. Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Stefan. It's a pleasure, as always. But I believe Ross Gilbert is currently waltzing around the venue, so we're going to go see what he's up to.